The first advantage for Houston is that Jawan Taylor is a good pass blocker, but a poor run blocker. So him going against Daniil Hunter, who is a quality pass rusher, that kind of cancels out with Taylor being the good pass blocker. But what really is advantageous for Houston is that Daniil Hunter is an above average run defender as well. So you're getting an above average versus poor. That's pretty in favor of the Texans, as the Chiefs won't really be able to run to the right side of the line without first getting some double teams in or something to that nature or something of that nature that will get Hunter off of Taylor one on one. The next thing for Houston that is advantageous for them is that they have an above average Jimmy Ward versus a bad Xavier Worthy in the slot. It won't always be Worthy in the slot, but Worthy does spend a good amount of time there, and with Hollywood Brown likely returning, he has no injury designation at this point. It seems like Worthy is going to be in for more slot opportunities. Both he and Juju will be able to play in the slot more than they have been to this point. And Juju Smith Schuster is a similar case of not being good. So that's going to be an advantage for Houston. Ward is a very good nickel corner slash big nickel safety. So that's a thing that is really in favor of Houston. Another thing that I like for Houston regarding their cornerback situation is Kamari Lassiter is good, and Hollywood Brown is also potentially good, but there's a question mark there. So I'm not ready to say that Brown is going to come in and be 100% full speed ahead. I think that Brown might have a little bit of sluggishness just because, though it's a shoulder injury, it takes a little bit to get reacclimated with the speed of the game and the physicality as well. So Lassiter might have the advantage against Brown early on, especially. Somebody that I think should have an advantage, but won't actually have much of one, is Nico Collins. He might be the best wide receiver in all of football. And yes, I mean above Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. He is that good. But he's going to be shadowed by a top 5 cornerback in Trent McDuffie. So that's going to hold him back a fair amount, I would say. I think that Collins has the potential to abuse McDuffie because Collins is like 6'3", 6'4". McDuffie is 5'11". That is something that could be advantageous for Collins and the Texans. But overall, I don't think he's going to be seeing as much separation as you might expect from possibly the best receiver in the league. Somebody that I do think will have success, though, is the quality Tank Dell, who is going against a lacking Joshua Williams. Williams is just not really having it this year. I would say he's below average, and pretty clearly so. He hasn't been in holding up in man coverage, and I don't think he's great in zone coverage in general, but I do think that he can shine in man coverage when he's at his best. The issue is he's not at his best right now. As we shift to the advantages for the Chiefs, if you're enjoying this video, make sure you like and subscribe, as both make major differences. And with that out of the way, let's start off with the elephant in the room, that being Patrick Mahomes' health. He is dealing with a high ankle sprain, and it looks like he's going to play, at least according to Vegas's betting lines, as it shifted from in favor of Houston to in favor of the Chiefs in pretty short order. So it seems like Mahomes is going to play. I don't put 100% of my trust in the betting lines because they shift so quickly that they might shift again in favor of Houston. But with that said, Mahomes, if he does play, is a tier 2 quarterback for me this season versus CJ Stroud, who is a tier 4 quarterback. The way I arrive to these is by 4 advanced analytics combined into one metric and then placing them into tiers based on their performance in those metrics. So it's not just an eyeball test saying, I don't like Mahomes, he's a tier 2 quarterback, not a tier 1 one. Tier 2 is also still very good, by the way. It's top 10 ish. It's a bit below, say, Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow this year and Josh Allen. The next advantage for the Chiefs is that they have a quality run blocking offensive line versus an average Houston run defense. So they should be able to run the ball with some success to the left side of the line and up the middle. It's just really going to be Jawaan Taylor is not going to be having much of a good time against Danielle Hunter. So that's going to be problematic, but most things otherwise will not be. Another advantage for Kansas City is that there's nobody to cover Travis Kelce, really. Kelce remains to be a quality tight end, even if he's no longer the elite tight end he once was. So he's going to be a thorn in the side, possibly, of Houston's defense because Henry To'oTo'o is poor in coverage, and Christian Harris is a question mark because he hasn't really played much this year. He was good last year, I believe it was, in coverage, but if not, he's been good at certain points in his career other than that. So Harris does have the potential to be a Travis Kelce eraser, but there's a reason he hasn't been playing much this year. So that's something to watch out for if he does get put in, if he's going to be cohesive or not with the rest of the defense, because chemistry is so major with NFL defenses. It's almost as important as the talent itself. So Harris is going to be an interesting watch if he does play in this game. If not, To'oTo'o will likely be a not so good option for Houston, to put it lightly, as he just is not very naturally gifted in covering tight ends. As we shift now to the defensive side, we see that Houston has a lacking pass protection versus a good Kansas City pass rush. That is something that is not a good mix for Houston because anytime you go from a poor to even average discrepancy in talent, that's going to be pretty noticeable. But especially if you go from poor to it being good, that's even more profound. And that's the case here. The Chiefs have a good pass rush. They have a number of capable guys that can get after the quarterback. They have some depth too with like Charles Omenihu. And then they have their base four, which is pretty good as well. Another thing that is advantageous for the Chiefs defensively is that Houston has bad run blocking, and they're going against an above average Kansas City run defense. So that's an issue as well. Kansas City is not really known for their run defense because historically they've been a bit squishy, but this year they have a pretty sound run defense, and that just makes them all the more difficult to go against because they can force you to be a little bit one-dimensional, and then from there Steve Spagnuolo gets blitzing and things become really difficult. The next advantage for Kansas City is that they have a stud Chris Jones, I'm sure you've heard of him, versus a bad interior offensive line. And this interior offensive line for the Texans is pretty rough. Shaq Mason is far and away their best player, I would say, but he is not even very good. Actually, I wouldn't say that he's far and away their best player because their left guard, I'm drawing a blank on him, Titus Howard, I believe is his name, is actually pretty solid as well. He should be a right tackle, but he's a left guard, and he is helping the interior a fair bit, but still, he's not great. He's much better as a tackle, I believe, than as a guard. So I'm not sure what they're doing there. The final advantage for Kansas City is that they have an above average George Karlaftis versus a total question mark in Blake Fisher. And when I say question mark, that's actually maybe being a little bit too nice because Fisher has been very bad in limited snaps this year. He's a rookie, so that's the only sample size we really have of him as well. He did go to Notre Dame. That is something he has going for him because that is an O-line factory. So maybe he will be good, but right now it doesn't appear so. The final advantage for Kansas City as a whole is that they have home field advantage, which doesn't matter that much, but it's something. So this is a pretty close game. You are definitely not in the wrong if you lean either side here because there's arguments for both teams, but I'm leaning the Chiefs. This is so lame to say because it's kind of indecisive, but I think it's really the only way to approach this game. If Mahomes plays at any level, I'm leaning Kansas City, and if he doesn't play, I'm going to lean Houston, but only by a hair. I would say if Houston gets the benefit of no Mahomes, it's like 52% their way. And if Mahomes does play, it's like 60% Kansas City. Those are my thoughts on the game. Be sure to let me know what yours are in the comment section. And also be sure to like and subscribe for more football content.